We're here, live, ready to take your questions for fantasy basketball. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and here are the top 3 things that surprised me as an American living in Australia. You guys have a different meaning for the word root. Where's y'all Walmart at? And the C word. Why do you guys find champ so offensive? I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more right now. New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That is $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free and we are available on all platforms. You're going to double bang it? Yeah, you should. But while you're here now watching live, just hit the thumbs up, hit the bell, subscribe, leave your comments, leave your chats, all that stuff. We're going to get into the questions. And normally I'd be doing this with a guest, but yeah, he must be having a bit of a sleepy morning, old Kingy. So we'll just go at it. We'll go at it alone until he wakes up and joins me. So the news that we got overnight, which is not super surprising, LCPO comments on it here. How concerned should you be with De'Anthony Melton? You have playoffs beginning in 10 days in a 16-team league. You should be very concerned. We saw Melton come back. The comments post-game, again, it's all about reading into what these people say a lot of the time. They will often downplay injuries. So when they come out and go, yeah, we think it's actually what happened last time, that's bad news, right? And then they come out today and say he's got no timetable to return. To me, that's a long-term thing here for Melton with this back injury, so I would suggest you should be very concerned. Playoffs beginning in 10 days. I'd be pretty surprised if Melton plays, to be honest. The complicating factor you have here is it's a 16-team league, so his value in his 20 minutes would be there. I don't think he's going to be there, honestly, in that time frame. I don't think he's going to play really at any point in the next couple of weeks. So if you are, look, again, if your playoffs begin in 10 days and you're already in the playoffs, you don't have to make a call. Right, you can wait and see what happens, but I'd be very shocked if he returns in the next 3 weeks, honestly. Michael says his playoffs start next week. What do you think of Schroeder as a 5-game pickup next week? Yeah, look, 5 games just trumps basically everything. So yeah, he's not a very good player, but he's already on the fringes of 12 teams. And if you get 5 games out of him, yes, absolutely a pickup for that. What do I think of Lively's current production? Is it worth a hold in a 14 team? Yes, in a 14 team, it is. He's a fringe 12-team league guy who's streamable, but that is it. But in 14, absolutely, you've got a lot of value to use him there. All right, am I going to watch June Part 2? No, I didn't even watch June Part 1. Do you think the Paul Reed might become droppable in 12 teams? If so, in what circumstances? I mean, you could always drop him if you want. Like, I'm not going to ever tell you not to do that, but the projections that I have for Paul Reed have him pretty firmly as a top 100 player. He's in a slump at the moment. He was really bad last game. If he continually plays under 20 minutes, then yes, he's a drop, right? That's very straightforward. I don't think that'll be the case. I'd need to, if he does that for 3 games in a row or they change the starting lineup, then it's a drop. But he will have these stinkers in there. But he'll also go 13 and 8, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 3 assists in one game coming up, or do that for 3 in a row. So people love to react to one bad game from Reed, even though like he'll have one bad game every 5 games or 4 games or whatever, and the others aren't blowing us away. I just think, even in a points league, fine, get rid of him. Like, the upside's not worth it. But in a category league, I think his role is relatively secure. Is Jamal Murray not playing back-to-backs? He's dealing with this leg inflammation at the moment, so I think he's going to sit some of them. He's played back-to-backs this season. There's no hard and fast rule on this. Do you think Day'Ron Sharpe can be a good 5-game ad next week? Yes, I do. Getting those 5 games in, even if it's 14 minutes a night, that's useful, right? That's 70 minutes. And for a guy that's a really good per-minute producer, I think that's pretty strong. Tim, well, this is interesting. It's not a current issue, but what are your thoughts on how expansion will affect fantasy? My idea was another roster spot or 2, but curious your thoughts. Hadn't honestly thought about it. I hadn't thought about how expansion would impact it. I'm always for adding extra roster spots into fantasy anyway. The rosters are far too small. This is, again, how it works. When fantasy basketball was started, it was started for roto, and 10 starters and 3 bench is totally okay in that sort of a setting. But because it's transitioned to a more head-to-head game, which is a more recent invention, the roster spots are ridiculous. They're way too small. You can't have a situation where you've only got 3 bench guys, because as soon as you get one injury, it kills you. So the rosters are already significantly too small. So yeah, they should definitely be increased. MB says, Goodwin has played 43 games this season. Memphis has 20 games left. That means Goodwin can only play in 8 of those games the rest of season. The 43 games, they don't count all of those because he played them in Phoenix, right? And he wasn't on a two-way. What you got to look at is the two-way games that he played joining Memphis. And basically, the way that it works, it's a bit of a complicated formula. And I still can't find an actual resource to get the exact number of games. But it's 50 games you can play through the season. But then when you sign the two-way contract, you're allowed to play a prorated portion of that 50 games based on how many days are left in the season. So if there's 30% of the days left in the season, then you can play 30% of 50 games remaining for the year. So my understanding is he's got about 14 games of eligibility left out of the 26 games or whatever there is left for the Grizzlies. So that's how I understand how that's going to work. You say June like June. Yeah, I know. I don't say Dune. Dune. Can you make a fantasy rankings for playoffs? Yes. Basketballmonster.com. Is it possible to get an episode centered around potential shutdowns and who to pick up? Who to pick up? Impossible, right? Like, you just got to react when it happens. Because I could make a list and 4% of them happen. So you're going to be filling your brain with information that's not necessary, that doesn't have any value, and will end up being confusing. Usually, just look at the bad teams to begin with. Look at players: Jeremy Grant, DeAndre Ayton, Anthony Simons, Kyle Kuzma, maybe Jordan Poole, maybe Miles Bridges. Probably not though. Look at those sort of guys: Jaren Jackson, and then see. But a lot of the time, it becomes like complete nonsense. Where there'll be 4 games where one guy starts, and another 4 games where a different guy starts. It's impossible to do that sort of projection, I think. Okay. Do you have a mock draft or guide on how to draft via salary next season? Yeah, we do auction mock drafts. We do auction tips. We do that all the time. All right. Simmons playing 5 games next week. Almost no chance. He is listed as questionable for today. I'd say, let me have a look at how their schedule actually plays out, the Nets, because I think they've got 2 back-to-backs out of that 5. So that would mean 3 games maximum for Simmons, would be my guess. Let me just double-check that. They've got the Monday, Tuesday back-to-back and the Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, 3 games max for Simmons. Max. And he's listed questionable today with that leg issue. I can't believe they brought him, that they played him 14 minutes of that Monday day. Or absolute idiocy, I think. All right. The Hawks keep winning without Trey. Is it possible that they will be aggressive in trying to make the play-in, or is their season essentially done? That's tough, isn't it? Because obviously they didn't play great opponents, especially that one against Utah. Is it possible? Yeah, are they going to be aggressive? Like, the coaches and players are generally going to be trying to win, and they're going to be trying to get into the play-in. The Hawks, I think they're also too far out to significantly drop themselves down the standings to get a high draft pick, and this draft isn't the draft to tank for. Realistically, when we're talking about tanking or shutting down or anything like that for this season, it's about preserving guys who might be a little banged up and trying to see what you've got with other players. It's not necessarily about avoiding the play-in or not avoiding the play-in or tanking for draft picks for this year for these teams. It's like, hey, let's maybe see what Kobe Bufkin has. That's sort of what it's more about, I think. But yeah, like, they will... look, their season is not going well, but the fact is that the other teams in that zone are not particularly strong either, so they've still got a really good chance of making it. Okay. Do I think Jalen Johnson could be a top 30 NBA player? I wouldn't rule it out. I don't think that that's likely, but I wouldn't rule it out. Should you pick up Denny Avdia? Yes, like, if he's available. I don't know what league is happening there, even though I have concerns about him. Yes. Are you concerned with... I don't know what Since recent efficiency is. I don't know what Since is. But anyway, you have him and Kobe, and they're killing me right now. Yeah, I don't know. Don't even know why I put that up on the screen, so I don't know what that is. Do I think Hartenstein is better than Zubac's rest of season? Yes. What else have we got going on here? Well, we'll get into some more of these questions in a second. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. FanDuel Sportsbook. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That is $150 if your bet wins. You can bet on all of your favorite NBA teams and NBA players with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel is an official sportsbook partner of the NBA, and don't forget to gamble responsibly. Okay, back to some more questions. I can't answer these questions in humane spade. Who should I trade Jaren Jackson for? Nikola Jokic. Like, I can't spoon-feed information like that. It's impossible without knowing anything about your league or your team or anything. I think you should move off of JJJ, but I can't tell you who to trade for. Is Pirtle a sell high? He's been playing great with 20 to 30 minutes. His sell high can keep this up. He's not doing anything that is completely outrageous. I think that there's no reason that what he's doing at the moment can't somewhat hold. Is Jaden Ivey droppable? Well, I don't know what league you're in, so I don't know. Guys, you've got to give more information. Like, how can I possibly... Is he droppable in a 4-team league? No. I mean, yes. Is he droppable in a 20-team league? No. I don't know. Got to give more info. Is the big man Drummond worth a hold for next week in 12-team points? He's worth a hold for now. You have to decide for next week, because it's all about really here what happens with Caruso. Because if Caruso is out, then Drummond will get more minutes. If Caruso is in, it gets a little bit more iffy, and then you'd like to see one game to see if they go back double big or what they do. Do I think Trey will return this season? No, I don't actually. Okay, with Hendricks' minutes improving and almost cracking 30, where do I see him rank rest of season? I think that there's a shot that he'll have a little stretch that's top 100, maybe. That's an outside shot. I'd say he's more likely going to be 120, around that area. It all is really going to depend. Can the shot start to fall? Can he be a 55% shooter, hit 1.7 threes, and get 1.5 blocks? Because that pushes you in the top 100. But that's probably the iffy part of that, I'd say. Trey Mann or Trey Murphy, rest of season, 12-10 points. It's probably Mann, but you can have a look at your own scoring system. Just have a look at what both these guys are averaging over the last 10 days, 2 weeks, and you'll get a better idea there. Hey, Josh, I was listening to Hoop Collective, and they were discussing how Mobley and Allen cannibalize each other. If Mobley were a starting five, would he be top 20 in fantasy? Yes, he would. And we also saw that Jarrett Allen could get close to that as well when Mobley was out. Do I think Trey is a potential asset to be moved, and you could see Bufkin being an ad if that were to happen? That would depend on a lot of different things. Obviously, Bufkin's not even starting now with Trey out because there's Bogdanovic there, there's Murray there still. There are so many things that happen across an NBA offseason, and this free agency is going to be very quiet from a signing perspective, but I do believe there are going to be a lot of trades. I don't fully believe that Trae Young is going to be one of those players, but it is possible. But there are so many different things that can happen and so many moves that come out of nowhere that trying to predict whether Kobe Bufkin's going to be a draftable player next season based on a potential Trae Young trade, again, it's so hard to be able to predict that stuff. Is there a strategy to drafting players who won't be screwed around with their minutes? I'm referring to guys like Kessler and Pirtle. No, there's not. Like, this stuff is just... There's almost no way that me being down on Kessler more than anybody, basically, creating whole shows at times to tell you why he was significantly overvalued. Even I didn't see this coming for a guy that was really solid last season. I didn't think he'd be playing 19, 20 minutes a night. There was no way that I saw that coming. So there's not. Now, I guess you could say... non-spacing centers are always going to be at risk, and centers in general. Part of why I hate Yahoo's default of always having to start two centers when center is one of those positions that is devalued around the NBA. There's absolutely no reason that we require two starting centers on a Yahoo team. It's ridiculous because of this. So maybe you look at that and go, centers are always at risk of foul trouble and getting played off the court. Is agreeing to split prize pools okay? What do you mean? Like, you get into the finals against somebody and say, hey, let's just split this 50-50? I guess so. Like, I don't see why someone who is not in that playoff mix would care. Like, if I finish third and then the two people in the championship game said they're going to split the prize pool, what am I going to do? Oh my God, this is whatever. It's a little like anti-competitive, but that's your own thing. You're guaranteeing yourself a higher floor, lower ceiling, whatever. I don't think a problem with it. Do I think Kessler's going to get 30 minutes regularly in the near future? I do not. What should you look for Jaren? A top 50? Yeah, I think top 50 is a reasonable thing. Maybe even top 65. Gafford, any chance he gets going? Robert, it's very important to note that what happened yesterday. No Maxi Kleber. That's why the minutes are up. So is it possible that they play him 25 a night? Sure. Is it likely? Absolutely not. No chance. It was 0.01% chance because they're not just going to play Kleber 0 minutes from now on out. They just won't do that. Would I rather have Malik Monk or Keontae/Trey Mann? That's a really good question, Derek. I think that all of those guys should be on rosters. I probably lean to Keontae. He doesn't have the specter of whatever the LaMelo Ball is hanging over him, and Monk is a bench player who plays like 28 minutes a night, so that can be a bit iffy there. So I'd probably take Keontae even though his shooting is iffy. Brett, that's something that will come after the season. I'm not going to do that right now. Patty Mills is waived by Atlanta. Would that have any implications regarding Kobe Buff commits? Again, this is what I will always want to stress to you guys, and I don't want to pick on you, Cenk, here, but it's really important to note this. You asked this question, will have any implication on Buffkin's minutes. Patty Mills was playing 0 minutes a night, so Buffkin will take all of Mills' 0 minutes. It doesn't have any impact whatsoever. The only impact you could suggest is that now that means Trent Forrest is converted to a full-time contract, so maybe Forrest gets playing time, which actually negatively impacts Buffkin's minutes. Sometimes we have this reaction, like there was a guy the other day saying, man, I can't wait for poker. He's going to be able to get all of JT Thor's minutes. Yeah, zero. And it's no point looking at someone's long-term, well, this guy's actually averaged 13 minutes a game for the season, so therefore that'll go to this new guy. It's all about looking at the 240 game and who's getting the minutes at the moment. My concern with Vince Williams' efficiency, yeah, it's obviously a little bit down at the moment, Paprika, and that's not ideal. He's always going to have some of these issues as he transitions into a more scouted player by opponents and higher up the offensive pecking order. It's going to bounce back from where it currently is, but yeah, there is reason to have concern. Do I think Embiid or Bane returns first? Embiid, because Bane's not returning. Am I encouraged by more stars playing back-to-backs lately? No, Embiid, because let me tell you why. And I know that you guys will disagree. The problem that was talked about was nowhere near as big as the way it was talked about. People had this idea that every star was just sitting every back-to-back, and it just wasn't true. It just wasn't. Like, it just wasn't true. Like, it's simple. Are people playing back-to-backs? Yeah. Are they playing more than they did last year? I don't think so. I don't think the back-to-backs, I don't think there's much difference really at all. You still have LeBron will occasionally sit him. He sat before the break, after the break. Davis hasn't been hurt this season. I guess he's probably the one who's played through more smaller injuries. We'll see. Is it actually benefiting that team? Because I don't know. They're not very good. Even though they won yesterday. What are my thoughts on grade A Dick in 16-team points leagues? Yeah, it should be rostered there. Yes, athletes have agreed to share gold medals at the Olympics. I saw that. I think I've seen that once, and I know that clip. I actually watched that about 3 days ago, that clip. But yeah, it has happened. You're right. Okay. Do I think Poole can be close to his production from last season? Outside of his shooting, which is obviously down at the moment, it's very positive signs for Poole at the moment. The usage is way up, and that's one of the things that was really dragging him way down this season. So I guess he can get sort of close to that. With the injuries in Orlando, does Fultz get some additional run? What have I missed? The injuries in Orlando. What happened? Oh, there's no injuries. What are you talking about? What? There's no injuries. Have I lost my mind? Polo is sick. What the hell? What are we talking about? Can you drop Mike Conley for Trey Mann or Trey Jones? You can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. Now, I think Mike Conley's probably more valuable. But your league, there's something. Why is Trey Jones on your why? Why is Trey Mann on your why? Your league, sorry, Rye Peru, feels either shallow. I know it's 12 teams. Or it says 12 Is it 12 categories? That's a very shallow league. Because all of these guys are must-roster 12-team league players. I would be okay. Like Conley's upside is low, and this is a shallow league, so you can cycle through. Okay. What do I think about a Lauri potential shutdown? I mean, 18 points, it's hard to guess what I should be picking up too. You're in an 8-team league, so there is immense value on the waiver wire, so don't stress it. It's almost impossible to go wrong on your waiver wire. Like if I'm guessing you've only got like 100 players rostered, meaning you're going to have 80 guys who can very easily cycle in. You can't get it wrong. The worry will be when that does happen and Lauri is out, which I think won't happen until maybe April. Last week of March, April is the guess for all of these ones. And then who knows who's stepping into a larger role there, but there's going to be a million different options for you available at that point. Who is stopping Boston winning the championship this season? Denver, Oklahoma City, the Clippers, even though they were bad yesterday, obviously. The Wolves, they're not as clean favorites as you think. When would I cut bait on LaMelo? It's a really good question, Sean. I don't have LaMelo anywhere in any of my leagues, so I haven't had to make that call. It's just really frustrating that they're not telling us. If you are in the playoffs and your playoffs have started, it's basically impossible to hold on to LaMelo waiting then. Like that's probably, or you're in a week where it's like pre-playoffs when you go, I must win this week and I don't have that IL slot available, then you might have to do that. But the lack of transparency is really frustrating, obviously. Today's episode is also brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with over 3 million members. 3 million members. It's also the easiest and the most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers. You pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and you watch the winnings roll in. So now on PrizePicks, you can be demon time. You can win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. And you can turn $10 into 1,000. Demons and goblins are the newest and most exciting way to play PrizePicks. Squares are marked with red demons or green goblins, and that gets you different payouts. You can now win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. You go in there, you find the players, you find the stats that you're looking for, you just choose more or less, you submit them, and off you go. So go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, pick more, pick less. It is that easy. Let's round it out now with our last group of questions. Is a Kongwu a hold? Really hard to suggest he's a hold, Jimmy. Again, not knowing your specifics, I'll say no, he's not. Should you hold Melton or pick up Scoot? Well, they're both injured at the moment. I don't think we need to hold Melton. Scoot, it just depends when he comes back, but he will be a rosterable guy when he returns. I think neither of those guys are significant priorities at the moment. What round do I see LaMelo's value falling to next season? He won't get drafted in the first round. I'm pretty confident with that. He'll probably go in the, I would say third round. The Kawhi zone is where he'll probably end up going. In playoffs, is streaming absolutely key to win matchups? Yes, you basically cannot win without streaming in the playoffs because your opponent will be absolutely locked in and focused. And if they end up playing 7 more games than you, well, you're cooked. You're done. It's simple. There's caveats there. If you're the 1 seed, they're the 8 seed. Their team's bad, your team's good, then you might beat them even with a games deficit. Really hard to overcome a big games deficit, though, isn't it? And the problem is if you're not streaming and then one of your guys gets injured, well, you're in real trouble there as well, aren't you? Because that's even fewer games that you're going to be having. Am I worried about Wemby getting shut down in late March? I hate the word shut down. And I know I've said to you, look, I worry about where Jaren goes and Markkanen, but this is in April sort of stuff and late March. But in general, I'm not letting it control my life or what I do for fantasy. It doesn't impact what I do drafting-wise or anything like that. I'm pretty sure Wembanyama's going to play through, though, to be honest. But stuff can happen at any point. If someone asks a question that doesn't specify league format, why don't you just answer assuming it's 12-team 9K? I usually do, but sometimes the people also need to hear, hey, tell me your answer. Tell me the question properly. Who's your MVP voting right now? Jokic, Shea, Luka, Giannis. Who am I missing? 5. Who's 5? Don't know who 5 is. Trying to think. I don't know who my 5th one is. I tell you who it's not. Kendrick Perkins. It's not Domantas Sabonis. It's not that. Who is my 5th guy? Is it Tatum? Yeah, I don't know. He's been sort of okay. He's been fine. Been good. I don't know. Let me have a quick look. Off the top of my head, I don't love to do things like that without any research. So when I have to do award shows, I do a bunch of work on it. I don't know. I'd consider. Kawhi. Kawhi's fifth for me. There you go. I knew I was forgetting someone. Would you trade Triple J for Double J? Jaren Jackson Jr. for Jalen Johnson? I just want to get more J's on my team. Yes, I would do that trade. My league has a cash bonus for winning the regular season. Do I like that idea? Not really, no. Because being successful in the playoffs does not equal being the top team in the regular season. What's the point of it? What's the idea here? You're trying to be like the NBA. We've got to make the regular season more important. Why? Why do you need to do that? I don't get that. I'm not against it. I just don't understand it. With 7 acquisitions a week, is the best use to pick up a back-to-back player every day? Basically, yes. And with 7 moves for the week, you should have 2 streaming spots. Because if you have 1 streaming spot where you can't actually, or you can get 7 games in, that's it. If you've got 1 streaming spot, if you've got 2, well, you can probably end up getting like 10 games in, 11 games in from those 2 spots, probably. What's my level of confidence Halliburton gets back to pre-injury form? It's like, I'm not saying that he's bad. I'm not saying that I think he's going to suck, but getting back to that level, I have low confidence that he gets back there this season. Do I think Hendricks' minutes increase carries into next season we could average 30? No idea. Again, it just depends on what they do in the offseason. Do they dump John Collins? Do they bring in a starting small forward so Lauri has to play the 4? There's just too many things that can happen. They should be getting Hendricks 30 minutes a night, but there's a million things that can happen. We could have also said the same thing about Houston. Like, they drafted Amen Thompson. Yeah, they're going to put him in. He'll start. That'll be great. And they went inside Fred VanVleet. You're like, well, that doesn't make any sense, does it? Right? So there's just too many things that can happen. Do I think Hendricks has a bigger impact on steals and blocks than Cody Martin? He has a bigger impact in blocks and a lower impact in steals. Also, why it's really important to not use the term stocks, because it's pointless. Does your league count steals and blocks together as one category? Shout out to Arsebounds. Denny is available for tonight. That is true. Dennis Smith, Dorian Finney-Smith, or Sharp next week. Obviously, we're talking the 5-game Brooklyn Legends. It's probably Sharp, honestly. It's probably Sharp. He's the best per-minute player there, so it is probably him. Because Brunson has a neck injury, does that have the potential to be an injury he has to manage carefully, miss a bunch of... No idea. Like, I don't think we look at it and go, well, it's his neck, then that's going to be a real issue moving forward. Lower body is usually more important with that sort of thing because obviously you're running and banging it on the ground every time you move. That's more of an issue. It hasn't once entered my head to go, well, Brunson's got a neck problem. That's going to be a long-lasting problem as we move forward. Do I think Amen Thompson will get a larger role for fantasy playoffs? Not necessarily, no. Obviously, the Rockets don't care about fantasy playoffs and whether they move him into that larger role. They've actually been reducing Amen Thompson's role, so that's not a great sign there. So no, I'm not really banking on that at this point. Is GG Jackson a drop, or would you hold to see if his role increases? Again, no format. So I'm just going to tell you like it's a category league, like old mate Silas suggested. Role increases. His role's okay, right? His role you get more minutes later, but at the moment, it's really for him. It's about, can you deal with the fact that he can be a really terrible shooter who doesn't produce much more? He is really hard to consider a must roster player in category leagues. Who am I playing tonight? Bojan, Denny, or Rui? Well, one of those things is not like the other, and that's Denny because he's actually been good. And Bojan is nowhere near it, and Rui's been playing better, but it is very clearly Denny out of the group. What's with people trying to make me tell them like that I love Denny when I just think he's fine? Asar or Amen in a points league? Well, one of them is getting 30-plus minutes a night, so that's the one that I'll go for at the moment, and that's Asar. What is the standard format? The standard format is 12-team, 9 categories. You've played for 10 years. It's always been game cap with the ability to go over on a Sunday. That's only on ESPN. Yahoo does not offer games cap because they're behind the times. Matchup acquisition is 4 this year, but I think it's higher in the past. ESPN's default is 7 games cap. The default ads is 4 on Yahoo. Games cap is not a default setup, unfortunately. It should be, but Yahoo doesn't even offer the option. So yeah, the standard format is... Majority of leagues are played on Yahoo. 12 teams, 9 categories, 10 starters, 3 bench, ridiculously 2 starting centers, no games cap, 4 acquisition max. That's the standard. It's bad, but it's the standard. Do I think Bagley will have more opportunities to shot? What more do you need from him versus the 30 minutes plus he's got the last 2 games? Like, will he have more than that? No, he won't. Jaren for DeJounte Murray? Yeah, look, take DeJounte Murray every day of the week. If someone's offering you that, I feel like it's TBI central. Like, what is going on? That's a terrible trade from that guy that wants Jaren Jackson in that scenario. Who has more value rest of the season, Trey Mann or Jalen Suggs? That's a really good question, Victor Wembanyama. Trey Mann or Jalen Suggs? It's probably Mann, but I don't feel super confident about that. Is Jalen Green a dynasty hold or has his ceiling been reached? Well, those two things, they're not on either or. It's not a binary. Has his ceiling been reached? No. Look, he's 21, 22. Like, absolutely not. Your peak production as an NBA player is 29. Let's say the 27 to 30 range, but it's 29 is your peak usually. That is when things start to decline after that. So he's nowhere near his ceiling. Is he a dynasty hold? Like, that would depend a lot on a million different settings. I wouldn't want to just be turfing him out unless I'm in one of those dynasty leagues that's poorly set up. Do I think he's good? Not really, no. But I think he hasn't really shown significant improvements over 3 years, but I'm not going to rule him out completely, but I'm going to rule him out completely from being a star. So I'll put it that way. What is the best site for fantasy basketball money leagues, in your opinion? I don't play any public leagues. I can't on Yahoo. They banned me because I'm in Australia, so I can't play on those sites. So the only ones I play is with like private setup leagues and go through the guys at FBIbasketball.com. All right. So someone just said Jamal Murray's playing. There you go. So he is playing the back-to-back. Good news. We got that news, and that'll almost that'll bring us to the end of the show. So again, I thank you guys for being here as part of the Mailbag Show. And if you haven't done it already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, and double bang it. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. See ya.